wilderness supports the city in terms of providing it with a spiritual reservoir and also a recreational reservoir. Hunting, fishing, camping, backpacking, all of those things also provide a physical outlet, which is important.
Northwoods Audubon Center is located halfway between Minneapolis and Duluth on Grindstone Lake. The family of Marguerite Schweitzer donated the land to the Audubon Society to establish a wildlife refuge and environmental learning center. In 1970, Mike Link moved away from his job and his house in Champlin, Minnesota, to build the Northwoods Center.
Northwoods is a product of all things which have gone on here. It's a product of the glaciers. It's a product of the forest and the succession that took place after the glaciers and the development of the forest, of the Indians, the Dakota Indians and the Ojibwe Indians who worked along this shore and lived on this lake and built their homes and buried their dead. It's a product of the lumbermen who came here and cut the forest, of the people who caused the Hinckley Fire, of the survivors, of the people who lived here, the Schweitzers and their farming, and the people who picked the rocks and built the rock piles and cleared the land. All of those people, all of those events make Northwoods what it is today.
Even as Mike Link worked for a major corporation and later as a tax accountant, a love of nature and the outdoors dominated his life. When offered the opportunity to help establish Northwoods, Mike and his wife Jane had to make a major decision.
I know. It's so tough. It's so good. See? Look at it.
She and I took 10 minutes to decide to move from Minneapolis and sell our home, to move up here into Northwoods and to take on a profession we didn't know anything about and a center we didn't know anything about. And so my wife and I both made a big decision, and we made it jointly, and this is where we've been now for 11 years, and pleased with what we decided.
The ecological characteristics of Northwoods make it a unique place to study and appreciate nature.
Northwoods is, in terms of ecological content, is sitting in an area which is the transition zone. It's the point at which the hardwood forest and the coniferous forest meet, and consequently we have in this area one of the real prime examples of what a transition forest stands for. We have approximately 54 species of woody plants out here. We have an overlap of northern species and southern species of birds and mammals and reptiles. So it gives us a greater complex of things to work with. Northwoods has a number of different functions in a year. We are an education center. We're devoted to the positive experiences of learning about and learning to love nature. Our whole goal is to preserve the environment, to give us a quality of life and conditions in which we can enjoy life and share the world with the plants and the animals that also reside here on Earth. In May, we have one of our courses for Northland College, which is a program that is called the Spring Transition. It's a biology course in which we try and get students to see better, to observe more. It's one of my favorites. It's one in which we are trying to develop in the student the ability to see, to observe, to get a better feeling for their surroundings, and to take in what's happening as opposed to moving through the land and just letting things go by. We want to stop and listen to each sound and identify it. We want to see each flower as it blooms and identify it, smell it and feel it, look at the way it's structured. We want to catch each bird that migrates in and see it, listen to it, watch where it goes, see what its habits are, and learn from it. I want them to have a love of the outdoors. I want them to have a sense of purpose in having the wilderness, to realize the inspiration, the necessity, the life forms, and the complexity that's there. I want them to work for the environment. I want them to be aware of its needs and aware of what it has to give, and as such, I want them to be able to take away a love of the environment. But that lies behind everything that I do.
Most of Mike's teaching activities take place amid trees and quiet breezes, but occasionally he organizes an expedition to the urban wilderness of the Twin Cities.
We hope that by exploring the city, by taking a wilderness type of expedition through the city, that we will come away with a greater feeling for the wilderness-urban connection. It's not always easy to make those kinds of philosophical jumps if you haven't spent years thinking about it. Sometimes by putting things in such a juxtaposition that you do a wilderness trip through a city, something which is unusual, something which is almost out of character, the very excitement of doing something unusual can sometimes draw the line and close that gap that it may have taken of years that it takes to develop some of this understanding, and that's my hope. I'm hoping that my students will not look at the city as an alien and foreign environment which they want to escape, but one which they want to improve and make better as far as a place for people to live, and understand the relationship it has with the other aspects of the earth that they like and enjoy. I think the city is important in that it develops a suitable habitat for the human animal to live in. It provides them with requirements of life. And a good city provides not only the requirements of life, but it provides the inspiration and the excitement that develops the mind and the philosophy. And in urban places, people develop an understanding and appreciation of wild places. The wilderness philosophy is often spawned in the heart of a city. You don't have to be a naturalist and live in a beautiful center like this to be effective for the environment. You can be effective for the environment working in factories and stores. You can live in the city and be effective for the environment. There is no single way of being an environmentalist or an ecologist or even a naturalist. Sigurd Olson paddled the North Country and felt that land like no one else has ever done before or since. And he expressed it. He didn't hide it, and he didn't keep himself in a hermit's existence. There's no reason why loving the wilderness means disliking people.
There's a dream in everyone that whispers, come and follow me. It's always hard to touch and hard to see, but some men hear the voice and know they have no choice, and live as though their dream were meant to be. They called him Bourgeois, our true and trusted guide. He's led us through the frontiers of our day, from the rivers of the Northland, exploring far and wide, and answering the call of Hudson's Bay. They called him Bourgeois, our teacher he has been. He showed us how to love the living land, how to feel the pulse of life, how to listen to the wind, how to hold your ground and take a stand, and take a stand.
In order to understand people here, You have to understand the land that we grow up with. We have to understand the values of the country that is here. We've grown up in this area appreciating the freedom that is part of the environment, the freedom to explore the landscape. And that's not a freedom that's inherent in all the United States nor all the world. And so we feel that we need to explore that and the need to preserve wild places.
I think it's really important we minimize our impact. Where I've stepped and walked in here, you can see the grasses are down. Next week they won't be down because we won't be coming back here, but repeated contact will create a trail or a people pattern, and then we no longer are studying a natural environment, we're studying our own impact. So that we always want to minimize the damage that we might do in an area. It's like the organisms, once we've looked at them and that, we'll release them back in here. You just get in, you're going to get damp. You might want to take your watches off if you don't want to get your watch down in the pond. If you want, I'll put the watch up here.
The whole spring course has one objective, and that's to get people to see, to open up eyes. These people are outdoor education people. They're going to be teaching others. There's a scientific basis to what we're doing in this course, and we'll be learning and gathering facts, which are the basis of science. But we're taking facts, and the facts lose the coldness and the sterility. The facts become a part of an emotional experience because they lived with those facts. The facts have life and breath to them. We want to identify each thing that comes on. We don't want to walk past something. In the spring, each observation, each opportunity is so important. So it's a matter of stopping people, getting them to react to the things they see, the things they hear, the things they smell. If you walk through the woods and there's a pleasant odor, don't just say, "My, that smells pleasant," and walk on. Find out what it is. Stop and learn more about it. There's lots of things to learn by looking and seeing. Well, in nature, there isn't any reason to be in a hurry. We don't set up hikes so that we have to make so far. We want to see the snakes and the frogs and the mammals. We want to look in the lake and on the land. We want to just spread out our seeing. Just look around us so that at the end of the spring we can be overwhelmed by how much there really is and how little we were even able to see. I want to open up the world more to them. I want them to be more than one dimension. I don't want outdoor education students who just go out and paddle and climb and backpack, because that's not enough. There's just too much more to life. It's got to be a whole experience. If it isn't a whole experience, if it doesn't happen on a multiple levels, it's not going to be lasting. You got to be involved with what you're doing, and that's what this course is all about.
Mike tries to give his students a realistic perspective on nature. The woods are not a fantasy-like place where everything goes right. He shows his students a beaver dam that failed because the young beaver didn't build it correctly.
One of the things that this is good for is to shake some of our complacency for nature, because we have a tendency to think of all things in nature as being successes. And they aren't. They can fail. But we know that from watching this, the chance for existence is very, very slim.
We are a product of all things. We are, in essence, just a part of a continuum. We cannot isolate ourselves out in time and say that where we live and what we're doing is only for today. And that's unfortunately a philosophy which is too much a part of those people who are distant from the land, who could see only the greed and the need to remove and extract, to leave behind them a wake of destruction and pollution, because their concern is for today, not realizing that their impact is for the future as well. They're saying, if I can make a profit quickly, I can make more profit without regulation. But it goes back to our old Indian philosophies again. the short-term gain and the quick profit leaves a mess for the next generation to clean up. And for our people to say today, well, then let's us pass on these burdens to the future. Let them clean up the lakes and the air. Let's make our profit. It's only to magnify the problem.
Craig, have you seen this dam?
No, I'm interested in it.
We're gonna have to get some things going again. We're gonna have to get some mapping and things going again out here.
Mike Link has written several books of wilderness lore, including Grazing, a book about foraging for wild foods, Outdoor Education, How to Teach Wilderness Values, and Journeys to Door County, a profile of that unique portion of Wisconsin.
My life is like the hecticness of it. Sure. The life around here is probably a lot more hectic than most people would imagine from living out in the woods. When you're a college professor and an author and a father and a scout leader and a dozen other roles, you really don't hide from the world. And I guess I never came here intending to hide from the world. So it's not the life here is not one that's as calm and remote and hermit-like as people might expect. As a matter of fact, we seldom have a day that we don't have someone else around. I always have staff, I always have student interns, and quite often we have program people around.
It's a beautiful tree.
It hurts to take some of these down like this.
It's very difficult at times to separate out where Northwoods ends and Mike Link begins, where our even drawing a family and separating, because we become so intertwined in what we're doing. We get caught up in what we're doing. And the whole family is a part of what happens here at Northwoods. My family is drawn into the programs. Jane works here and is my partner at Northwoods, less visible in many ways because of the roles that she plays as administrator, cook, and planner, but very important. Hers are the roles that makes the other types of things happen and work. My kids become a part of the center because they participate in programs. I'd say my lifestyle is to be involved with the environment, to care, to develop a love and understanding for it with my family. All I can do is to hope to work towards maintaining the best quality of life, the best understanding in this world that I can possibly attain, and try and leave the decisions for the future of the world to my son and his generation, to my daughter and her generation. They're the ones who are going to suffer from the short-term effects of our decisions, and I hope that they can benefit from the long term. So that's my legacy. My legacy is wild plants, wild animals, open places that they can walk with freedom. I guess as a request I have for everybody that comes through this center, when they've done with climbing, skiing, exploring the waterfalls and the lakes and seeing the beauty of the country, when they've shared our love and care for them as well as our care for the environment, and they look at us and say, boy, thanks a lot for this week. We really enjoyed it. This was just a fantastic experience. My reply to them and to their thanks is that if you enjoyed it, then there's one request I have, and that is that sometime, someplace in their life when the animals and the plants are suffering or being destroyed because they have no voice, because they cannot vote, because they cannot stop the things that are happening, that at that time they speak up on behalf of the plants and the animals. And that'll be all the thanks that I can ask. And I would hope and ask the same thing of everyone who comes through this program. Because if everybody that comes through this program takes the time once to say, stop, the world will be better.
Solitude eludes me when seclusion hides away. When people all confuse me, when there's heavy bills to pay, I lose myself in daydreams of a place that's far from here, where pine trees spread their special scent like jewels within